secret traps you can use to make your friendships even stronger. Some Minecraft traps are pretty expensive. This one, however, is so cheap and easy that you can throw it at your friends on day one. All you'll need for this is a lava bucket, a piece of TNT, sand, and a pressure plate. And then when your friend, steps on this pressure plate, that sand will fall from underneath them and drop them right into lava. And as an added benefit, this could also make them just develop a fear of sand or pressure plates for that matter, making them extra careful even if you didn't actually put a trap there. Your friends yearn for the mines, but the mines belong to you. So set this one up in your community mine shaft, and that'll make your friends never want to come to spawn again. A couple redstone bits, some lava, and sticky pistons are all that you'll need for this trap. See, when one of your friends mines this diamond ore, the redstone torch will break and retract the piston, leading them to fall into the blazing hot lava bath. And in case you want to show your friends just how thoughtful you are, you could even encase that lava in obsidian. If you just built an iron farm, this trap's for you, since it will use plenty of anvils and sticky pistons, but it's fairly simple to set up. To start, the ore block acts as the bait, and then when the gravel above the ore block drops from the gravity, the redstone will depower and pull back the 2 layers of pistons, dropping our sweet innocent friend and a line of crushing anvils onto their head. But when you do this, make sure to line the pit with signs. That'll prevent them from placing blocks or water as they're falling, since after all, what's the point of setting a trap if you're just gonna give them a way out so easily? There are certain things that you'd never expect to kill you, and doors that you've always opened up without dying are definitely high on that list. So it's very easy to use these to our advantage. Now find a friend who likes making piston doors, and then hook up that piston door's pressure plate to retract the floor on the other side. And of course, they'll walk through it just like normal, but this time, they're gonna walk through it only to fall through and die, completely ruling out redstone doors forever. Pop quiz, what's the first thing you do when you hop into a minecart? Well, if we're being honest, it's probably looking at our phone. And I bet your friends do too, which is what makes this trap so cheap and easy. Go to a minecart rail that they use often and mine out a chunk of it, preferably on the decline, making it even harder to notice the gaping hole. And then the last step is to fill in that hole with whatever your favorite kill method is. Now for my money, lava and dripstone make for easy choices. And that way the next time they go for a quick ride on that rail, they're gonna get hit by 2 surprises, which just one of those is bad enough, but both together, that's just brutal. Did you know that redstone ore gives a block update when you walk on top of it? Well, that means that you can turn it into a redstone signal using an observer. See, by hiding a redstone ore underneath the carpet, you can make an inconspicuous trap in any house that triggers simply by walking over it. And then all you have to do is pick out your favorite method of attack. It's really chef's choice. And if there's one thing that someone should take away from this video, it's trust issues. When water elevators were first added into the game, they completely changed the ways that we play our block game. But it's way too easy to set up a death trap in the corresponding drop chute. After all, what comes up must go down. We're just sending them a lot further down than they were hoping. Add a tripwire that triggers on the way down, and then hook it up to a dispenser that's ready to suck up the safety water. That way, when your friends poke their head through, they'll see the water, think it'll be safe to drop in, and really, why shouldn't they? But the next time they plummet down to bedrock to mine up some diamonds, they'll splatter all their loot into the ground and give you something good to go pick up on your next mining trip. 1.12 is one of the most popular versions of Minecraft, and especially so in the technical community. And so if you're still playing in this version, then you can use this glitch to make a nearly invisible pitfall. Place a rose bush on the ground, and then place a block of sand on top of it. Put a piece of string on top of that, and then break the rose bush. And just like that, you're all set. The next time that a player walks over it, the string will block update the sand and make it remember, oh yeah, I'm breaking the laws of physics, I gotta fall. Look at this image and tell me you can honestly find where the string is on the sand. When you zoom out to the desert, it's really hard to find. Sometimes you want to make a trap that'll make your friends scream. And what better way to do that than by dropping a plague of pufferfish on top of their heads? Is that the name for a bunch of pufferfish? A plague? Well, it's gonna feel like it. See, this trap can go anywhere that you can fit a piston and a water source block. All you need to do is hook it up to a pressure plate and then unleash your flood of the yellow minions. Not those yellow minions. And what I love about this trap is that it's customizable. And with each pufferfish that you add, it shows your friends even more love and appreciation. It's well known that every Minecraft player loves jump scares. So why not bring the jump scare right to your friends? Using a name tag, you can snag yourself some creepers, or really whatever mob you think will make your friends too scared to log onto the server again. And then by activating an underground piston slime block, you can launch your Freddy Fazbear stand-in right into the face of your unsuspecting victims. Man, you can even use this to customize the difficulty and deadliness of your trap by changing out the gear or type of mob that you use for the jump scare, which will very easily make your friends not trust any random buttons on the ground. We all like to live out our lives vicariously through Minecraft. Or maybe it's just me. But what if there was a trap to prevent you from even playing? Well, by stacking 5 boats on on top of each other like this, the Minecraft servers will think that you're flying if you walk on top of the stack, therefore kicking you from the server entirely. You can force your friends to leave the game for good, and finally get them to go outside and touch grass, giving us some peace and quiet and giving them the opportunity to go take a break. This next trap usually requires admin privileges, or at least a silver tongue. See, by editing a resource pack to make the blocks transparent, then you could kill players by setting up invisible walls in places that they normally fly. And so whether you convince a player to install it by telling them it's some great X-ray pack, or instead set it as the default server resource pack on a server that you're the admin for, then you can go up to the common airspace and start building up your invisible wall. I mean, imagine your friends setting off to fly with their hard-earned elytra just before splatting into the air like a bird on a washed window. Nothing like the dull thud of a job well done. Honeycomb blocks are pushable by pistons, and they cannot be mined easily by any tool, which makes them the perfect block choice for a nearly inescapable prison. Since there's no tool associated for mining honeycomb, if we shift the walls back and forth with a piston loop, it's extremely difficult to mine your way out. And hey, even if they do manage to somehow escape, there's always the old reliable lava pit to have our backs. Because while we might not always want to kill our friends, the idea of trapping them for eternity in an endless squish machine, yeah, we might do that on occasion. Are you devious? Well, you've made it so far into the video, so the answer is probably yes. And in that case, you're going to want to get yourself the Frostwalker enchantment. Then, by waiting for your friends to jump under the water, with a bit of patience, you'll be able to trap them underneath the Frostwalker ice, just by walking forward. And then it becomes a fun little game where they try to escape, and you just keep moving around to ensure that they can. I mean, hey, waterboarding sounds like fun if you don't know what the word means, so I guess it's all well and good here too. There's no point in setting a trap if your target can see it coming. So by using a shifting set of pistons ready to move the ceiling, the moving blocks won't be able to obstruct our potion dispensers, or any other projectile coming through the roof. And at that point, you can put in your favorite concoctions in the dispensers above, and trigger the activation with some kind of skulk sensors. I mean, come on, no one expects their ceiling to betray them, much less start spitting potions of poison, harming, and slowness at them. A similar concept can be implemented with our walls. See, hide a full array of arrow dispensers inside your friend's hallway, and pistons on top and bottom will let you to shift their wall, allowing arrows to come piercing through. And if you're feeling extra rich and deadly, you could use potion tipped arrows as well. I, for one, love it when my hallways are decorated with secret death traps, and so I'm sure your friends will too. See, this flush lava dispenser can help you surprise them with an extra spicy hot tub. It's very flexible and best used and repeated, and slapping this trap into your friends' extra long hallways will make them rethink ever leaving the room again. If your friends aren't already hearing voices from the walls, then this trap will definitely make them start to. Ravines and cliff faces are the best places for this contraption. You can rig it up with pressure plates or skulk sensors so that when your friend walks by, a triple piston extender will extend from the cave wall and sweep them off the edge. Not into your loving arms, but instead a pit of lava. Traps aren't always about killing or taking your friend's items. Sometimes it's about sending a message. So by hooking up your pitfall to a series of slime block bounce contraptions, you can send them on a tension building ride that says to your friend, "I can do anything I want to you. I am in control." You know, in Jigsaw's voice or not. And at the end of their admission-free roller coaster, after the anticipation is at its peak, you give them a safe little boop, cause you're friends. For now, but don't hold your breath. Now, it's true, sometimes traps are about sending a message. And sometimes that message is a pop-up TNT railgun being used to scare the daylights out of anyone who comes nearby. Now, this trap can go indoors or outdoors, and it's completely flush with the floor. And uniquely, it can also target the triggered location from range. So rig it to point at whatever doorway's pressure plate, and you've got yourself the world's most roundabout landmine. And while not the most practical, or maybe the healthiest form of communication, do we really need a reason to launch a TNT cannon at our friends? I think the concept justifies itself. I'll be honest, this trap likely isn't for friends, and it definitely won't make you any new ones. Now, when your unsuspecting friend or victim triggers a skulk sensor, a hole opens up in the ceiling and a piston launches a TNT minecart straight towards the floor, which should kill nearly anyone that triggers it. And anyone that doesn't is definitely going to be left with a hum in the drum that's not going away anytime soon. Alright, be honest, have you built one of these machines before, where it allows the player to adjust the XP level of their enchanting table? Well, if you or another player set one up, it's the perfect place to rig up a trap. Using the lever that controls the bookshelves, just wire a line of redstone to your kill mechanism. And since they're standing still enchanting, you can even use this to drop a dripstone guillotine on them from above. And once we break the stalactite and drop it on their head, that's a perfectly good reminder why you should never read. At least not without your head covered. This trap is less of a secret and more of a challenge. It'll kill anyone who's unaware while still managing to instill fear in those who do know the trick. What's seemingly just a pile of TNT, this lump of explosives is actually a block up tape bomb. And so if a player places down a block, mines a block, or even just touches it with water, the TNT's fuse will be lit off. And this bomb cannot be defused by any easy means possible, so it'll either become a large crater or serve as a monument to be forever preserved in your world's history. The perfect trap is one that your victims can never escape, and there's nothing worse than setting up the perfect surprise only for it to be foiled. So lure your target into a hallway with some juicy bait, and then when your trap triggers off, you can use a piston to push the player upwards into a hidden set of cobwebs. And then for some good measure, raise some barrier pistons on the sides, and whatever's left of the trap is sure to hit its next mark. When your friend goes AFK, that's our turn to bring out the fishing rod. Since with the help of one of these, we're able to bring your friend up way sky high, until after a few attempts, we can actually place them on top of a TNT block like this. Now, right now, that TNT block is a solid ground, but it's not going to stay that way. Since when we sit on top a few blocks above and aim at them with a flame bow, then as soon as they log back in, we can shoot the block underneath them, and if the fall damage doesn't kill them, the block and TNT falling on top of them should be enough to do the job. Even if they manage to survive this with a water bucket, TNT still does damage even if it doesn't break blocks around it, meaning even the most prepared of players are still in for a rude awakening when they come back in. Clearly, hoppers are a great asset for getting stuff out of containers, but while they're effective, they're not always discreet, and that can cause a big problem for sneaky operation. So to fix that and stay in the shadows, we'll need some different options. Now, maybe that's putting a hopper under a furnace or a barrel instead of a chest so that they can't see the pixels around the edge. Or perhaps you change out their chest for trapped ones so that they can't see any items getting sucked out when they open it, but it'll all funnel out the same when they close it. And really, either of those options will put us leaps and bounds ahead of the regular crooks. When my friend wasn't looking, I switched out his dog for one of my own, but by giving our dog the same name tag and collar as theirs, it's nearly identical to the original pet, except this time he can't right click to stop it from sitting, which will surely cause some frustration. And to take this all one step further, why not punch the friend so that their supposed man's best friend turns against them? Truth be told, pranks in Minecraft are a lot easier than in real life, but that doesn't mean there isn't any overlap, and this is a great mix of the two. See, in the real world, we usually place a water cup on top of a door, but here we could use TNT instead. And after aligning the minecarts along a chest, we can balance that one pixel just right to keep it steady until someone comes. And then when they open the door to step in, they'll knock the minecarts onto the powered rail, and the rest is history. This is a snow block, this is a powdered snow block, and this is a powdered snow block death trap. With the way that Carves designed this, if we bounce a player up and down on a slime block like so, they can't mine fast enough to escape the snowy situation. Even an enchanted netherite shovel can't do the trick, it's that bad. And by adding blocks like crafting tables and furnaces around the perimeter, they can't even right click to escape. Ouch. If you've messed around with gaming glitches, you're probably familiar with the concept of a soft lock. That is, where the game is still playable, but the player can't make any more progress. And while that's usually a sign of lackluster playtesting, today we'll be using it for quite the prank. Now, pulling this off might be tricky, but the idea hinges around getting your friend to set their spawn in a bed that's underneath the end portal, which after that means they can only respawn in the end dimension, with no hopes of escape. And I think that fits our soft lock criteria. Cobwebs down in the mines are annoying enough, but if you fill up your friend's house with them, then they're sure to get a little angry. The beautiful thing is that even if they have the proper tool to get rid of cobwebs, by the nature of the beast, it's still gonna take them so long to get rid of all of them. So if you take the time to fill out every nook and cranny in their house, you're basically guaranteeing they have an afternoon of cleanup. But hey, for what it's worth, it's not a destructive prank and it really doesn't have any long-term effects. Just tell them that you're installing some extra insulation, I'm sure they'll be happy with it. Traps are a tale as old as Minecraft itself, but while there are plenty of flashy ways to imprison or blow up your pals, this might be the best way to hold them accountable, since with the dripstone spikes, we can make something of a functional guillotine for our use in our Minecraft worlds. Sure enough, you tuck the culprit underneath the trap door and have a system to let the spike fall far enough, and then you can have quite the public display. So while I wouldn't recommend it for any kind of quick attack, this might be a way to keep those hackers in line, just as long as they're not wearing a helmet. If your friend was to knock you off of a cliff so that you test the water first, then the best way to get a quick revenge is to use something like sponge or some other blocks that you have on hand to quickly remove the water for when they attempt to jump down. You were able to test that the landing was safe and then make sure that it wasn't for them. Hey, they didn't ask if it was a one-time use thing. You did your job, and now they won't be doing theirs. I think that's a pretty good trade-off. Turtle eggs don't seem to do a lot. Like any baby, these things are quite the liability until they grow up, but that might just be our biggest asset. Since these eggs crack under the simplest bit of pressure, we can make an extremely easy trap. Just sneak one of these little guys under a thing of carpet, and then, as soon as any zombie or ne'er-do-well comes by, they'll be met with quite the surprise. One jump and that's it, and they'll start tumbling toward their doom, and you'll have one less hooligan to worry about. And now you don't have to worry about the egg or the fool. So if you got the silk touch on hand, this might just pave the way for the perfect possibility. Now, we're all well and familiar with the concept of creeper holes, and while these eyesores typically get filled in, some players aren't as as polite, and that lack of manners can lead to something of an infestation. So to teach the server a lesson on the importance of filling in their hollow holes, why don't we try something like this? Simply remove the blocks underneath the surface and then cover it up with topsoil. Then, after enough time, the mobs will spawn and give whoever cleans them up quite the startle. Let's be honest, no one likes waiting for crops to grow, and sometimes that waiting game can feel like forever. But in this case, it's actually true. See, while our friend wasn't looking, we snuck in and placed string tripwire along the top of their bamboo and sugarcane, which when standing back here is an almost imperceptible change. But it means that the crops cannot grow past that point. Meaning if you do this inside the mechanics of a redstone farm, they'll be totally confused as to why it stopped working. This is the deadliest entity in Minecraft, but not by itself. But rather, if you were to get more than 24 of these put into the same spot, then our friend's gonna have to deal with something called entity cramming, which is when the game thinks there's a certain number of mobs in the same spot. To avoid overloading on lag, they'll quickly start applying steady damage to the player. And by placing a honey block near the bottom, we make it even harder for them to escape once they fall in. But hey, at least they won't die alone. If you're sick of your friends raiding the end islands before you can, this might be the solution. As you'll notice, every time we go through the gateway to the outer end, we always land at the same block, which means we can plant a trap like so to guarantee any future visitors have a bad time. And furthermore, using TNT minecarts like this will make this whole thing explode, which pretty much guarantees a sudden death. Trapping an AFK friend in a bunch of blocks is a good start, but if they got the proper tools, they're gonna go through it pretty fast, meaning that overall it's a short-lived prank. So if you want to step up this simple one to the next level, all you gotta do is just make sure that the blocks you trap them in are waterlogged. Just like that, every single stair and slab that they decide to take out is just gonna splash more and more water into their face. Which means that if they don't have buckets, or at least aqua affinity, that's going to slow down the process of getting rid of them so much more. It's definitely a great way to annoy them when they decide to come back. Falling into the void is a bad time, everyone knows that. But while you expect that hazard in the end, the overworld is a different story. Because after seeing RecRap's video on the subject, this plan just might come into fruition. Now, sure, the time that it takes to break all the bedrock is a big investment, and to commit to pulling this off, you really need to hold a grudge. But come on, imagine your friend's reaction when they not only fall when they least expect it, but they also lose all their items in the void as well. It's just too perfect. There's nothing worse than helping out a friend, only for them to take that same help and then spit it back into your face. So if you want to get revenge on them for that, then the best way is to take after the Greeks and do a Trojan horse. Now first, we're going to have them stand in a very specific spot to help you out. The way that I like to do it is by throwing out some kind of useful item from the top rope. And then, as they're standing there to pick it up, just also drop down an anvil to make sure that they're standing right where we want them to get squished. And hey, you can get back that diamond block that you gave them in the first place. Hard to say that's not a good return on investment. You're literally getting your investment returned. And your friend's dead. Something I would pay more than diamond block to see happen. Another data pack that you can use to trick your friends is this one from Vanilla Tweaks. Since while the warden itself would be pretty loud, I mean they have an attack called a sonic boom that kind of gives it away. If you take a name tag and rename it to Silence Me, then when you add that on top of the warden, it'll no longer make another noise for your friends to hear. And now the only thing that'll tip them off to the warden nearby is the darkness effect, which is definitely noticeable, but it's also definitely confusing. So I think the prank still works either way, especially if you manage to tuck one of these inside your friend's house. Then by the time they get the darkness effect and start wondering what's happening, it'll already be too late. Finding a mushroom fields biome is a really lucky find, so it hurts especially bad if your friend comes by and kills all your mushrooms so you're no longer able to repopulate. And at that point, it's time for us to get revenge. And so why not use some of the mushrooms that are still left at our base to then ruin their own base? See, by placing mushrooms in hidden spots of their base like the gaps between their walls and floors, we're essentially creating an automatic way to annoy them, since the mushrooms will then spread on their own throughout the base, giving them a never-ending cleaning job. And what's best is that it's so random to do this prank that they're probably not even going around and looking for the source mushrooms of the problem. They just think that someone's coming through and placing them down manually. But one thing worth noting is that the area has to be dark enough for them to be able to spread, a light level of 12 or less. To maintain a good farm in Minecraft, you gotta keep a strict routine. So if you want to throw off your farmhand friend's rotation, then all you gotta do is harvest their crops without sharing or replanting any of the goods. By doing this, you can very well force them back to square one on their farm. Or at the very least, you'll have made them waste a cycle of waiting, which I think none of us want to go through again. So while they're lamenting about their lost harvest, you'll be able to talk about the greatest yield you've had in your life. A TNT explosion can pack quite a punch, but while that's already true, we can dial it up a notch. So what if instead of just destroying the blocks, it also launched the debris? Well, the results can get pretty ridiculous, and it makes blowing up your friend's base even more gratifying. So if you're looking to cause some proper chaos on the server, this is a solid option for sure. Just make sure your computer's strong enough to handle it. Otherwise, that house won't be the only thing that's going up in smoke. Casinos don't have a great reputation, but despite that, people still go back to them every single day. See, it's not our fault if they opt into playing our sleazy game. I mean, it does offer a great prize and all, but while they think they have a chance, the truth is that the machine is only designed to give back lesser rewards with nothing great in the rotation. And And as long as they don't check out the redstone behind the curtain, this is sure to be a valuable lesson for them to learn. Or at least it'll be valuable to us. If you really want to get rid of your friend's diamonds, then this will do the trick and then some. Items are entities, just like you and me. And that means that these things have a kill switch. So if you take an anvil sky high and drop it on a thing of items, it'll delete the stuff from existence. It's almost like we're creating our own kind of item execution system. Sometimes in Minecraft, it can be easy to forget that your actions have consequences. So to give your friend a quick refresher course, then how about we design a trap with that karma in mind? Now, I don't know about you, but on my world, exposed target blocks are a rare sight, meaning that as soon as someone sees one, you can guarantee that an arrow is going straight for the center. But this time, instead of a bullseye, they'll be treated in Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And in this case, that reaction is a poison arrow headed straight for their torso. Is it cruel? Well, it's hard to say they didn't ask for it. And maybe now they'll think twice before they act. By this point, we've all seen the Easter egg for naming a mob dinner bone. But this time, instead of just turning the mob upside down, it also changed the gravity to boot, which is definitely a wild sight. And yet, it's also surprisingly simple to pull off. See, all that's happening here is that we have a repeating command block that constantly checks for any mobs named Dinnerbone. And then when it finds one, it applies the levitation effect, and poof, they're off just like that, giving us quite the harmless prank to use next time your friend's online. If blowing up your friend's house seems like a good idea, but you don't want dirt on your hands, then here's how to get away clean. Because as you can see, it wasn't you that caused all those holes, it was just a bunch of creepers. And of course, since you didn't have the blocks, you didn't happen to fill them in, any of them. And trust me, after a while of these creeper holes stacking up, they're gonna hope that one day you step a little too close to that creeper and both of their problems wash away in an instant. And with that, folks, YouTube thinks that you might like this video, so see if they're right and have a good one, alright?